If you're told that you have to do a dissertation or a thesis in the semester, or you already are doing one, or it's a requirement of your degree that you have to write a 10,000, 15,000 or 80,000 word thesis, 80,000 was for my PhD, by the way, then this video is for you, because in this video I'm going to talk about all the chapters you need to include in your dissertation. So no matter if you're doing an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, or even a PhD, this video is for you. Stay tuned. Hello everybody, this is Dr. Samreen. I'm an academic, a full-time academic in the UK. So let's dive straight into today's video. Right, to begin with, every thesis starts with an introduction chapter. Now, there's no surprise there, is it? You have to, of course, introduce a topic. But what are the things you need to include in your introduction? Well, as the name suggests, in this chapter, you are just introducing what you're going to do. And it's always advisable to start this chapter by providing a brief background of the study, as in why you would like to do this study, what are the key literature themes, basically what really motivated you to do this study. This then leads into you defining the main themes from the literature, because mainly the idea of the introduction chapter is that if I just read your introduction chapter, I should be able to have a clear idea of what this thesis would look like, or what this thesis should include. So you try to provide all the information briefly to the reader in the introduction chapter. So, once you have written down the background of the study, literature, key themes of the literature, the most important bit in the introduction chapter is your aim and objectives. Now, it's the key for your study, as in what would you really like to achieve through the study. And just to kind of you understand, aim is a broader statement of your work, and then you break down that aim into 3, maximum 4 objectives, workable objectives, which can really help you to achieve that aim. Now, let me give you an example of aim and objectives, and I'll give you the example from my PhD study. The aim of my study was I wanted to investigate consumers' multiple identities in relation to their bank choice. That was a broader aim, big statement. Now, I've broken down that aim into few objectives to help me to achieve that aim. So, for example, some of my objectives were on the lines of this, that I wanted to understand what kind of identities exist for consumers. The second one was, what was the most important identity for them when they were selecting their banks. And the third was, what were the factors which were impacting their identities and henceforth their bank consumption. So, if you combine all these 3 objectives, they would take you back to the aim of the study. And that is the main aim of creating aim and objectives, because once you have the aim and objectives, it really helps you to narrow down your topic. Once you've done that, you can end the introduction chapter by presenting a structure of your whole thesis. For example, you can say that, my thesis would start with an introduction chapter, it would lead to literature review, and then I would discuss the methodology and so on and so forth. So by doing that, again, you're providing a brief overview to the reader that what else to expect from your work. The next chapter, the second chapter, is literature review. Now, literature review, I have made some videos already on how to think, write critically, so please do check them out. There must be somewhere on the screen here, the link. But literature review is a chapter where you're reviewing all the relevant literature. Now, when I say you review all the relevant literature, it doesn't mean that you have to include every single thing. And this is where the aim and objectives, which you have defined in the first chapter, really comes handy. Because once you have the aim and objectives for your study, it really helps you to narrow down your topics. For example, again, taking my example of my PhD, if I have the topic of consumer multiple identities in bank choice, I don't have to look around at any of the topics. So when I'm conducting my literature review, I would just keep my search limited to those terms. I would look at the financial sector, for example, I would look at the identity, but I would not look beyond much, because I know that anything beyond this topic would not really fit the scope of my study. And so it's extremely important that you have the right aim and objective, which would then help you to write a concise and clear literature review. And under literature review, mainly you're defining the concepts, you're analyzing them, and you're discussing them. What does it really mean? That you are going to present all the key works in your field, you're going to present all the similar studies for or against that concept. So basically you're comparing and contrasting, and then you're presenting your own commentary as in why it does matter, why it should matter, what are the implications of that, what people have not done before, also referred to as your research gap. So by doing that, you'll be writing a concise literature review. And by the way, I've made another video on how to conduct literature review in few easy steps. Do watch that as well. But in the literature review, the main idea is that you are setting the scene up with the right literature. Now, sometimes you can have more than one chapter as well for your literature review. For example, in my case, I had, but it really comes down to your topic. If you have a topic where you can encapsulate everything in one chapter, that's more than enough as well. But mostly when you're at the PhD level, it's a lot more detailed, and therefore you may have more than one chapter as well for your literature review. And one thing I forgot to add in your literature review, sometimes people also add a contextual chapter. So for example, if the context of the study is extremely important for your research, as in if you would conduct one research in, let's say, UK, and then you would conduct research in Nepal or Pakistan or any other country, because of the cultural differences, you may find different results. It's also advisable that you add a contextual chapter as well to your study. Third chapter is methodology. Now, it differs massively based on the field you're in. For example, if you are in engineering field or computer sciences, this chapter would look a lot different for you. But if you're in social sciences, like I was, your methodology chapter would really help the reader to understand what methods are you following to address your aim and objectives. And primarily, you could follow a quantitative methods or qualitative method. Qualitative methods, speaking broadly, is about creating meanings of the concepts and understanding them, whereas quantitative is more about numerical facts. I can do a lot more videos on these topics, but for just the duration of this video, I'm going to keep it very concise. So basically, when we have questions where we want to explore them, we use qualitative methods. So for example, when you want to understand the why of something, my study was I wanted to understand why people use one bank over the other, and which identity was the salient one. I used qualitative methods because I was interested to hear people's thoughts and views. So qualitative research can be done using interviews, focus groups, observations, ethnography, and many others. But quantitative research is more kind of, numerical, uses a lot more statistics. You can use factor analysis, correlation, regression, and many other methods as well. So based on your aim and objective of the study, you would decide which method you should choose. And again, I can talk a lot more about the methods here, but I'm just very conscious of the limit of the video, as in this video, I'm trying to give you a brief overview of how your thesis could look like, because in methodology, otherwise, you have to then include your sampling methods, your philosophical approach, pilot study, the techniques, analysis techniques, recruitment sample, a lot more things. And hopefully I can make another video on that in detail. So once you have explained your methodology, the next part comes in about your findings and discussion. Now, some people do findings a separate chapter and discussion chapter, but sometimes you can do them together as well. So what does that really mean? As the name suggests, findings chapter would just outline all the things you found out during your data collection. And discussion is where you discuss your findings in relation to your literature. So remember, we did the literature review in second chapter. So you'll bring in that literature here. You would see, okay, in relation to that literature which you have conducted, what did you find out? How do these two things compare and contrast? Are these the same? Are they different? If they are same, why? If they are not same, why not? So within discussion, you would discuss your own findings in relation to the literature. What people said, what you found, and what does that mean? So the last chapter is your conclusion chapter. Basically, you're concluding the whole thesis here. So in this chapter, you would be just talking about what could be some of the limitations of your study, what you could have done better perhaps, what are the future research implications, what you have done and how people can build upon your research, and also how your study is new. Have you addressed any research gap? Have you done something which nobody has done before? Or have you done something which people have done before? You have found something different, or have you found something which is similar to previous studies? So you will just discuss all these things under conclusion chapter. So these will be your basic overview of your thesis. I really hope this video was helpful, because I just tried to again provide you brief overview of how your thesis looks like. Do let me know in the comment section if you would like me to make any detailed video on any of these chapters or topics. And as I said earlier, based on your field, these chapters may differ, but generally speaking, they remain the same. Alright then, on that note, thank you very much for watching this video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.